Thank you, Mr. President. I only have a two-parter.
Thanks.
Are you concerned that the current debate over debt and deficits is preventing you from taking the kind of decisive and more balanced action needed to create jobs in this country, which is the #1 concern for Americans? And also, one of the impediments to job growth that this community repeatedly cites is the regulatory environment. So do you think that the NLRB complaint against Boeing, that has created some of is an example of the kinds of regulations that chill job growth, and also that you yourself have called just plain dumb?
I think it's important to understand that deficit reduction, debt reduction, should be part of an overall package for job growth over the long term. It's not the only part of it, but it's an important part of it. So, as I mentioned at the top, I think it's important for us to look at rebuilding our transportation infrastructure in this country. That could put people back to work right now, construction workers back to work right now. And it would get done work that America needs to get done. Now, we used to have the best roads, the best bridges, the best airports. We don't anymore. And that's not good for our long-term competitiveness. So we could put people to work right now and make sure that we're in a good position to win the future as well. I think I'm going to get to it. I think that it's important for us to look at the tax code and figure out, are there ways that we can simplify it and also build on the work that we've already done, for example, saying to small businesses or startup businesses, you don't have to pay capital gains when you're in startup mode, because we want you to get out there and start a business. That's important. Making sure that SBA is helping to get financing to small businesses. That's important. So there are a whole range of things that we can be doing. I think these trade deals will be important, because right now South Korea, frankly, has a better deal when it comes to our trading relationship than we do. Part of the reason I want to pass this trade deal is you see a whole bunch of Korean cars here in the United States and you don't see any American cars in Korea. So let's rebalance that trading relationship. That's why we should get this passed. So there are a range of things that we could be doing right now. Deficit and debt reduction should be seen as part of that overall process, because I think if businesses feel confident that we've got our act together here in Washington, that not only is the government not going to default, but we're also preparing for a future in which the population's getting older and we're going to have more expenses on the Medicare side and Social Security, that business will feel more confident about investing here in the United States of America. So I don't think they're contradictory. And as I've said before, certainly in my job, but I think Congress as well, they've got to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. So we can focus on jobs at the same time as we're focusing on debt and deficit reduction. Now, one of the things that my administration has talked about is there in fact a bunch of a tangle of regulations out there that are preventing businesses from growing and expanding as quickly as they should? Keep in mind that the business community is always complaining about regulations. When unemployment's at 3% and they're making record profits, they're going to still complain about regulations because, frankly, they want to be able to do whatever they think is going to maximize their profits. I've got an obligation to make sure that we're upholding smart regulations that protect our air and protect our water and protect our food. If you're flying on a plane, you want to make sure that there are some regulations in place to assure safety in air travel, right? So there's some core regulations that we've got to make. But what I have done, and this is unprecedented, by the way, no administration has done this before, is I've said to each agency, don't just look at current regulations, or don't just look at future regulations that we're proposing. Let's go backwards and look at regulations that are already in the books, and if they don't make sense, let's get rid of them. And we are in the process of doing that, and we've already identified changes that could potentially save billions of dollars for companies over the next several years. Now, you asked specifically about one decision that was made by the National Labor Relations Board, the NLRB. And this relates to Boeing. Essentially, the NLRB made a finding that Boeing had not followed the law in making a decision to move a plant. It's an independent agency. It's going before a judge. So I don't want to get into the details of the case. I don't know all the facts. That's going to be up to a judge to decide. What I do know is this, that as a general proposition, companies need to have the freedom to relocate. They have to follow the law, but that's part of our system. And if they're choosing to relocate here in the United States, that's a good thing. And what it doesn't make, what I think defies common sense, would be a notion that we would be shutting down a plant or laying off workers because labor and management can't come to a sensible agreement. So my hope is that even as this thing is working its way through, everybody steps back for a second and says, look, if jobs are being created here in the United States, let's make sure that we're encouraging that. And we can't afford to have labor and management fighting all the time at a time when we're competing with Germany and China and other countries that want to sell goods all around the world. And obviously, the airplane industry is an area where we still have a huge advantage. I want to make sure that we keep it. Okay. Mark Lander.